Experimenting with drinking, then sneaking home, but climbing through the window of the wrong house. Inside, a terrified neighbor with a gun. Tonight, new details, 2020 inside the investigation, as a heartbroken father retraces his son's last steps.
I was absolutely outraged.
And if you were that neighbor, what would you have done? And the breaking story, after a 14-year-old girl sneaks out the window to a party, claiming she'd been plied with alcohol by a popular high school football player and sexually assaulted.
Everything after that was just black.
But that was just the start.
And I think I knew what she was going to go through.
Was it consensual? Was it an attack? What the prosecutor is now saying. Plus, the parties when the parents aren't home, suddenly turning into mob scenes.
They urinated in every single drawer in my house.
Tonight, the parents who thought, not my kid, as 2020 rides along with the police unit out to crash the party, as the parents come home.
And it looks like the homeowners are coming here right now.
And tonight, we're there too.
Underage and under the influence. Here's David Muir.
This evening, the two ingredients that are part of so many Friday nights for teenagers across this country, partying and alcohol. Tonight here, an hour every parent will want to see, because the parents in every one of these stories thought, not my child, until it was. First, the shocking tale making national headlines, a teenager sneaking back into the house at night, thinking no one would ever know he was gone. But it turns out with all of that alcohol, he was sneaking into the wrong house. And what happened next, only two people will ever know for sure. And one of them is dead. Here's ABC's Deborah Roberts.
It was a late Saturday night last spring. 16-year-old Caleb Gordley had a secret plan to sneak out of his house to go party with some friends. A popular three-sport athlete at Parkview High School in Virginia, Caleb was also an aspiring rapper, seeing himself as the next Jay-Z.
The days go fast, but the time moves slow. It's like I'm stuck in sand, but I can't ever let go. Hey.
He was a self-proclaimed rapper going by the name of Prince George.
Yo, Caleb, Prince George.
The core was his music, was his lyrics. I have 85 songs that I've collected.
Good kid, Sean?
Great kid. He was very respectful, very polite.
Partier?
No. Like, he did not drink, and that's what makes that night even more peculiar, even more odd.
We're walking to school.
And out of character for Caleb.
He's not much of a drinker, but he just, I guess, wanted to try for that night.
Yet the one time Caleb decided to let loose, he would wind up dead in a stranger's home. It all began with the typical teen punishment.
He had been grounded because he went to the park on a Sunday afternoon after I told him to clean his room. I said, 1 week, you cannot go anywhere. You go to school, you go to practice, whatever, you're coming straight home. And he accepted. He doesn't talk back. He doesn't get up in my face. He said, all right, Dad.
Yeah.
By the end of the week, Caleb is itching to get out of the house.
We really want to party, don't want to get nothing.
Tweeting throughout the day, honestly, who's throwing a party tonight? I'm trying to have fun tonight, no lie. Caleb and sister Eden are living with their dad. Their parents, Sean and Janae, are divorced. Their firstborn was a natural ham. Caleb, here at 6, busting a move to NSYNC's Girlfriend.
He just had that energy that really attracted a lot of people to him because he was so fun and good-hearted. He just loved laughing and joking.
To give their kids a better life, the Gordleys left behind the tough, crime-ridden streets of Dayton, Ohio, for the tranquil suburbs of Sterling, Virginia, where Sean is a corporate IT manager.
I was happy with the area. I was happy with the school. The community seemed to be very active and social and kind of close-knit.
After the split, Janae moved back to Ohio to go to school, but never missed a beat with her kids. How much did you monitor his social media accounts?
A lot. And that was the one time I didn't in that particular day. I would have saw the signs if I would have just looked that day.
About the parties and...
He was looking for someplace to go that night.
So at the stroke of midnight, Caleb slips out of his 2-story home. He would never return. Caleb's first mistake would happen just after arriving at a buddy's house a few blocks away. Some of the boys begin tossing back vodka shots. By 2 a.m., a woozy Caleb decides it's time to go home before his dad notices he's gone. Good friend Corey Carrico was with Caleb.
I took him back to my house, and I was going to make him stay there, but he knew he had to get home. I knew that for sure, because he kept bothering us about it.
Staggering now, Caleb needs his sober friend to walk him the few blocks home to his quiet cul-de-sac, where many of the houses in the development look nearly identical.
We crossed this fence because all the houses are similar, and then once we crossed, we came up to this window over here.
You thought this was the window?
Yeah, we thought this was the window, and I just opened it up. I've never come in the back way before. It looks different from the back. I always come from the front when I come pick him up in the morning. So I figured it was his house because he thought it was his house too.
Did you just sort of like shove Caleb in?
No, he went in himself. The alarm went off, and then I saw the light come on, and then I heard yelling, which I thought it was his dad. So then I ran because I thought I was going to get in trouble.
Turns out it's not Caleb's dad. In fact, it's not even Caleb's house. It's the neighbor's home 2 doors down. The startled homeowner grabs his .40 caliber pistol that he kept next to his bed, thinking a burglar has broken in at 2:30 in the morning. In the chilling moments that follow, gunshots.
How many times was Caleb actually physically shot?
Once.
Once.
Out of 4 shots, he was hit once.
A developing story now out of Sterling.
Loudoun County Sheriff's deputies responded to a burglary with shots fired on...
The next morning, news of a shooting quickly spreads through the neighborhood. At Caleb's home, there's panic. His sister Eden realizes her brother isn't in his bed.
My friend's mother called her and told her that someone 2 doors away from us had gotten shot. She said somebody was trying to break in. I told my dad, and he was like, I woke up this morning, Caleb's not home. I don't know where he is.
I ran over to the neighbor's house, knocked on the door, and didn't find out any information. I ran back in the house, called 911.
What's going through your mind at this moment?
I know my son's dead. I know he's dead. Corey dropped Caleb off at my house at 2:30 in the morning, and there was a shooting in my neighborhood at 2:30, and I can't find my son. I knew it instantly.
His 16-year-old son shot dead.
I could barely talk. And I was so lost, and I couldn't fathom surviving this. I didn't know. I was like, well, there's no going beyond this.
Eden and Sean break the unbearable news to Janae in Ohio. Overcome with grief, she heads to Virginia.
I wept in the airport. I wept on a plane in front of strangers, and it didn't even matter.
You lost your son. Did you understand at all what had happened?
I did. I understood that, he made a mistake. And then it cost him his life. Yeah, my handsome man.
A life even Caleb realized was fragile.
This is the new microphone. And trust me, I have like 6 songs that I'm going to be putting out today.
And one of those songs he wrote just months before dying is oddly prophetic.
1, 2, 3. Your life can be done like that.
Called Reckless, with the sound of gunshots in the background, Caleb rapped,
Your life can be done like that.
His own life cut heartbreakingly short in what seemed a classic case of self-defense.
Somebody breaking into your house, you don't know. This person is going up the stairs, going towards where the homeowner's family was. I guess he fell in fear for their lives.
I mean, I put it on me at first. I thought it was all my fault because I took him to the wrong house.
But you realized it was a tragic mistake.
Yeah.
Both Sean and Janae believed it was an awful accident until they got the police report. What it revealed would change everything for Caleb's parents.
Once I got the details, I was absolutely outraged.
Was it self-defense or something else?
Murder.
Stay with us.
"2020 continues. Once again, Deborah Roberts.
Yeah. After a night of drinking, 16-year-old Caleb Gordley mistakenly entered the wrong house and was shot dead by his neighbor just 2 doors down. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, Caleb's father, Sean, was on a mission.
And that was to let the world know my son made a mistake. He was not there to harm anybody. He was not there to rob anybody. That's all I cared about, letting everybody know he went to the wrong house.
You said right after this happened that you felt forgiving towards your neighbor.
Correct.
Do you still?
No, not 1% forgiving. I'll tell him right here and right now, I apologize for my son entering your house. I will take that. Beyond that, there was no forgiveness. Once I got the details, I was absolutely outraged.
This is a horrible, horrible set of circumstances for the family, horrible set of circumstances for the shooter.
But 5 months after Donald West Wilder, seen here and identified to us by neighbors, shot and killed their teen son,
My son is gone.
And nothing will bring him back.
Sean and Janae are no longer conciliatory.
It sounded like a mistaken identity. Someone thinks there's a burglar in their home and they're trying to defend themselves.
At no point during the homeowner's count of the events did he ever describe Caleb in any way being aggressive, ill intent. He did not approach him. He did not come after him in a violent way.
In fact, Corey Carrico says his friend Caleb was visibly impaired when he tried getting him home.
Yeah, he was stumbling a lot. He fell down on the sidewalk a couple times.
I mean, even though he had to be home, I probably should have just kept him at my house. Or waited a little bit longer.
Sean is convinced that his son was confused, since his home has a nearly identical floor plan to the neighbor's. From the vantage point of Wilder upstairs, Sean showed us what he thinks happened, according to the police report.
He was crawling into his window.
Correct.
Where do you think the homeowners saw him first?
According to the police report, the homeowner came down this hall, immediately saw Caleb in the kitchen area. He saw his face, he did not recognize him, and he yelled at him to get out of the house.
He suspects his intoxicated son believed he was hearing his dad's angry voice.
So Caleb would have continued on thinking he's going to his bedroom, you think?
Yes, correct.
But remember, the 6-foot-tall boy is in Wilder's home and headed toward the bedrooms of Wilder's fiancée and her son.
The homeowner said he made eye contact with Caleb, and there was a dazed look on his face. So he knew he was on drugs, alcohol, whatever the case may be. And as he came up the steps, he said he saw no weapon.
Wilder then yells out and fires a warning shot, fearing the unknown intruder who's making his way upstairs near his family.
Caleb then, according to a statement, turned around, didn't attack the person shooting at him, and simply said, according to the statement, "You just shot me."
Then the end for Caleb, an ending Sean finds unconscionable. The autopsy report revealing the cold, hard fact that Caleb was shot in the back.
The homeowner angled against the wall and fired through Caleb's chest, and then a fourth shot past Caleb's head that he aimed at his head, missed. Caleb then took 2 more steps and fell face down on the floor, right in front of what he thought was his own bedroom. I don't care if you're in the Wild West. I don't care if you're in the hood. There was no honor in shooting somebody in the back.
So why would the homeowner fire multiple times when this person didn't appear to have a weapon?
It's 2:30 in the morning. You have a person that actually comes in through a window. The alarm sounds off. I mean, he was 6 foot tall, unknowns to the homeowner, wearing dark clothing. The homeowner advised him to stop, and that he would shoot, and Caleb continued to come forward.
He lined himself up at the perfect angle to shoot a hollow point bullet through my son's lung and explode his chest. And then a fourth shot at his head for good measure. That's what he did.
Do you see it as murder or accidental shooting?
Murder.
Murder?
He shot him in the back. If you're really in fear of danger of your life and your family's life, why would you allow a person that appeared to be dazed to you walk right past you and then you shoot him in the back?
If Caleb would have crossed that street right there and got hit by a car, I would have nobody to blame but Caleb. I have somebody else to blame for my son's death. I just do.
This kid is a kid of color, a black kid. Did that have any impact on this case?
I can't see that it would. The entire situation was just bad all the way around. Somebody coming into your house, not stopping when you're giving them commands to stop. Somebody continued to advance on you. Somebody going up the stairs where your family is.
The homeowner has not spoken out publicly. Have you had any sense of how this has impacted him?
In conversations with my detectives, I understand that he was devastated by what had happened. So much so that he had to take a couple weeks off.
After an investigation, no charges were filed against Donald West Wilder, a volunteer firefighter who owns a consulting company. Through his attorney, he declined our request for an interview, saying, "The incident was an unfortunate tragedy on every level, but as we are not confident that participating in your program would contribute to the healing process, we are unwilling to so participate." 10 months after their son's death, Sean and Janae Gordley still can't understand how a teenage mistake can end so tragically. The man who took her son's life did reach out to the Gordleys through his attorney, saying he was sad about what happened. But Sean threw out the note, offended by its formal tone.
Do I hate him? No. Do I want him put away? No, I don't think that's going to solve anything.
Do you want to hear from him personally?
I would love to.
He's 2 doors down.
2 doors down.
Do you still see this neighbor?
I never saw him before. I haven't seen him since.
Some people would have packed up and moved right away, but yet you've somehow managed to stay here.
The first few months, there was no way I was leaving.
I keep the door closed because it smells like him in here still after all these months. I smell him right now. On his blanket, on his pillow. We haven't washed anything. We haven't vacuumed. I come in here, sometimes I'll take a nap on his bed.
And he awakens to a wall of emotional memories scrawled by Caleb's classmates who were shattered by their friend's sudden death.
I don't know anybody who didn't like him for any reason.
You just put a smile on your face.
Absolutely great kid. This was his 16th birthday, so this is his last birthday.
His son would be 17 now, a high school senior making college plans with his friend Corey.
He's such a great friend. It's a shame if you never knew him. He was such a funny person.
I truly believe that my son was a gift.
Yeah, we got 16 and a half awesome years. I will hold on to that.
A sad and complicated case for sure. Was that homeowner justified in taking action that night? Or do those parents deserve an apology in person? Tweet me, use the hashtag ABC2020.
Next, the 14-year-old cheerleader, the varsity football player, and a hazy night of blackout boozing.
The doctor said that she had been raped.
But was even worse still to come?
The stuff on Facebook and Twitter saying stuff like, why don't you slit your wrists?
The surprising outcome just yesterday.
Tonight, there is a red-hot debate in one American town about a decision made in a high school case that rocked the entire community of Maryville, Missouri. In the last 24 hours, a special prosecutor making her final decision about a case of alleged rape involving a teenage daughter and a popular high school football player. Was it fueled by alcohol? Did he ply her with drinks? Consensual or rape? Tonight, ABC's Matt Gutman in Maryville, where that prosecutor's decision is rippling through the town tonight.
Today, Daisy Coleman is the face of the latest alcohol-fueled teen sex scandal.
14-year-old Daisy Coleman.
The sexual assault charges.
A high school sexual assault case is making headlines once again.
She is the face that you almost never see. The teenage victim shedding anonymity to speak about what happened to her.
I really wish more girls would tell their story.
And what she says is happening to young girls all over the country.
You had a lot of young people that made a lot of bad decisions, and they ended up getting caught.
Her story is set in Maryville, Missouri, an all-American town where football is king and its players royalty. On these plains, the fairy tale is that the corn-fed football champs date the cute cheerleaders. But not for Daisy. At 14, a beaming and back then blonde cheerleader new to Maryville. She had already survived one tragedy when she was 9, a car accident that killed her father, a physician. For Daisy, her 3 brothers, and veterinarian mom, Melinda, the move to Maryville with its cows and cornfields was meant to be a fresh start.
So, when you moved to Maryville, what was it like?
Maryville was great. We were anonymous. We were starting over fresh. We didn't have to be the tragic family. We were just us.
But that fresh start in anonymity would soon end so bitterly. Trouble began, harmlessly enough, on a frigid January evening, a sleepover with her friend Paige, who was in the 8th grade.
She just came over, we started watching scary movies.
They also started drinking. Daisy says it was one of the first times she and 13-year-old Paige had consumed alcohol.
I was in high school and everyone was already doing it, so I was like, oh, I might as well try this.
Weeks before, Daisy had already begun texting with a high school senior, a tall and broad-shouldered defensive end named Matthew Barnett. He was in the cool crowd of athletes, along with her oldest brother, Charlie. Here they are, together at prom. But Charlie wasn't exactly pleased with all that flirty texting.
I told him, I was like, quit texting my sister.
You told him to stop texting your sister?
And I told her to stop. And I was like, listen, he's a senior, you're a freshman. You're my little sister, he hangs out with me. That's so messed up. You can't be talking to him. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, she didn't listen. She's a teenage kid.
He was really popular. He was a senior football player. He was friends with everyone, and he asked to hang out. So we snuck out of my house around 1, and he drove us to his house, and he had to sneak us through his basement window.
At the house, some of the town's most popular teens and athletes. Barnett, the grandson of a former longtime Missouri State Representative, junior Jordan Zek, a standout wrestler. A senior whose family owned the biggest restaurant in town, a junior star running back, and a 15-year-old.
Those were the guys I was with every single day.
You could have trusted them like a brother, and you hoped that you could have trusted them with your sister.
Yeah, I hoped.
They kind of egged me on to drink from this really tall shot glass.
Daisy says the boys called it the bitch cup, and she drank from it.
Everything after that was just black, and that's all I remember.
Paige says she does remember what happened next.
They just automatically separated us, and another guy took me to a different room and sexually assaulted me, and we went back out into the living room, and we had to wait until Matt was done, and he opened the door and I went in there, and she couldn't talk at all, and they were trying to get her to stand up, and they realized that she wasn't going to be able to, so one of them went through the window, and then they proceeded to drag her out of the window.
In police reports, Barnett admits having sex with Daisy, but insists it was consensual. The biggest question was she incapacitated by her drunkenness? That would soon become a critical legal detail. Barnett claims she was buzzed when they had sex, but didn't get truly drunk until after they had sex. One boy told police that she drank 5 to 10 shots of vodka in less than 15 minutes after having sex with Barnett. And that same boy shot a short iPhone video of Daisy and Barnett, quote, dry humping. Less than an hour after they had arrived, Paige says the boys dragged Daisy to the car. She was crying. On their way to Daisy's house, Barnett and the boy who had sex with Paige chucked their used condoms out the window.
They just started panicking a lot, saying, how are we going to get her dropped off without her brothers waking up, without them hearing us? And so they brought us back to the house and dropped her off and then just put her in the yard. And they told me to go back inside and that she'd be fine. She just had to sober up.
Paige sneaked back inside, leaving Daisy outside with the boys. All the while, Melinda thought her daughter was safely asleep in bed all night. It was 5 a.m. when Daisy was discovered.
And the dog started barking, which woke Mom up and my youngest brother. And they went to the door, and she was coming towards the porch.
And she had just sweatpants and a t-shirt on. It was 22 degrees. Her hair was wet and frozen. And I could see that she had frostbite on her feet.
And then I was woken up to, Charlie, wake up, Charlie, there's something wrong. And that's when I got out of bed and came upstairs, and that's probably when my life changed.
Daisy had been abandoned on the lawn for almost 3 hours, wearing no shoes or socks.
It was terrifying, and I couldn't understand why she was outside. We pulled her in and wrapped her in blankets and started warming her up.
Melinda says she thought maybe Daisy had been sleepwalking. But when she put Daisy in the bathtub to warm her up, she noticed marks on her body.
I asked her if she was hurting, and she kind of said yes and started crying. And that's when I was pretty certain that something had happened.
She said, okay, something's been seriously wrong. I need you to find her phone. So my brother and I went in the yard and found the phone. Started reading these messages from Maddie.
When you read that text message that said Maddie on the phone, and you saw your sister, did you instantly know what happened?
I instantly knew there was something going on. You know, the last message on there was, "I'll be there in a minute." And I was so mad.
I called the police and they came out, and then I took her into the emergency room. The doctor said that she had been raped, and we were both crying. I think that's when it really hit us. It was definitely my worst fears. As a mom, it just hurt so much, and you want to take the pain away. And I think I knew what she was going to go through.
The night that began with the girls watching horror movies quickly became a real-life nightmare for them both. And for Daisy, a very public one.
They would yell liar or the S word.
We thought it was bad then. It got even worse.
Next, a suicide attempt and one final bombshell.
I think it's a just result. It's the right result.
We continue with Underage and Under the Influence. Once again, Matt Gutman.
Daisy Coleman doesn't remember much about the night that changed her life. She remembers sneaking out of her house to meet a group of older boys. That brimming shot glass. But what came after, including, she says, losing her virginity to senior Matt Barnett, that is a blank. A blood alcohol test of Daisy taken 7 hours after the encounter showed her still nearly twice the legal limit. But her mother is convinced she knows what happened.
There's no way that it could have been consensual with her being that drunk.
At the hospital, doctors' report cited alleged or suspected sexual assault. At first, authorities seemed to agree.
We were able to pretty quickly put together names of people that we needed to talk to, and subsequently some folks were detained, and ultimately charges were filed.
Barnett was charged with sexual assault, a felony, and endangering the welfare of a child, a misdemeanor, for leaving Daisy on her lawn in 21-degree weather. But that's not all.
There was a video taken. We were told that immediately after they did that they deleted it. And when that phone was forensically examined, there was nothing on the phone.
I had a couple good friends tell me about it. They had seen it firsthand, and they instantly texted me and told me.
Charlie Coleman is Daisy's oldest brother.
Was the girl in that video saying anything? Was she saying no?
They just said that it started with my sister and Matt kissing with their pants off.
Whatever happened, that small farming community of Maryville was now reeling. For Melinda, a terrifying realization that the boys she thought could have been her daughter's protectors may have been her tormentors.
I trusted them. I thought they were good kids. They were at my house all the time. I'd made them Chilean Rotel. They'd watch the playoffs on the big screen. You know, I really thought these boys not only would not hurt my daughter, I thought they would have protected my daughter if she did something stupid like this and snuck out and drank.
Some of your friends even turned on you guys, and your brothers.
I had a buddy inform me that there was a Twitter chain going on about a couple of guys waiting for me out in the parking lot after school.
Melinda says she watched her daughter's life unravel. Daisy was suspended from the cheerleading team after admitting to drinking and was bullied at school.
People would generally just yell stuff, like they would yell liar or the S word, or they would call me the W word.
She would sometimes, if I took her to Walmart or the grocery store, start having an anxiety attack and I'd have to take her home.
Daisy's friend Paige, the 13-year-old with her that night, says her personality also changed after the incident.
I don't really go out anymore. I just don't like being around a lot of people, and I don't do very much anymore.
Paige's 15-year-old assailant's case was handled in juvenile court, and those records are sealed. But soon after the incident, Melinda says she heard speculation that the charges against Barnett, the grandson of a former Missouri state representative, would be dropped.
I thought with all the evidence we had that there was no way that was even a possibility.
And sure enough, that felony charge was dismissed.
I was just in disbelief. I tried for weeks to contact the prosecuting attorney and find out what had happened. What's going on? Why'd you drop the charges?
I was really upset. I felt like I lost a lot of faith in the justice system, especially in Maryville.
Prosecutor Robert Rice said there wasn't enough evidence. And with that, Melinda says the town turned on her daughter and sided with a popular high school football player.
The stuff on Facebook and Twitter was just unbelievable, so horrible, saying stuff like, why don't you slit your wrists?
And she nearly did kill herself using pills.
At one point, she tried to take her own life.
I saw the bathroom was closed, so I knocked on the door, and there was no answer. And I just had this like weird feeling coming over me, like, oh no, not this, please don't let it be what it looks like. So I kicked on the door, and she was just like laying there, unconscious, so.
Melinda had seen enough. She moved her family out of Maryville, 40 miles away. But the family's troubles followed them. 8 months after leaving town, another blow. The house they were trying to sell burned down. An insurance company called it an electrical fire. And all the while, Daisy's depression deepened.
I began self-harming and I was very suicidal. And I really started to hate myself and who I was. And I felt like I was just an ugly person.
I got to the point that I had her with me every single minute. It was almost like having an infant again. She was in such a dark place.
Daisy was down, but wouldn't be silenced. She went on a national media campaign.
I felt really weak, worn down, just like I wasn't worth anything.
Thank you, both of you. I know this is difficult.
He has a lot more guilt in this than they're admitting, and I think they need to let him pay at least some price and some punishment so he can learn.
Justice for Daisy! Justice
And
for Daisy!
she ignited a firestorm back home.
Supporters held daisies and lit candles to represent the alleged victim.
The local prosecutor bowed to public pressure, bringing in an outside prosecutor to take a fresh look at the case. And after a 10-week investigation, yesterday, the final word.
Today, Mr. Burnett pled guilty to endangering the welfare of a child in the second degree. And what that means in this particular case is that it is a conviction. It will remain on his record, and it will never go away.
That was for leaving Daisy on her lawn in the cold. But the prosecutor said there was no evidence for sexual assault charges.
There was insufficient evidence to go forward on a sexual assault.
Prosecutors can only bring charges if they can actually prove the elements of that charge. So in this case, prosecutors felt like they had insufficient evidence to prove the charge of sexual assault.
As for that innuendo about political favoritism, Barnett's lawyers say there never was any.
Mr. Barnett truly regrets the actions to which he has pled guilty.
Barnett pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge. How did that make you feel?
Of course, I'm sad and disappointed, but it's better than nothing.
But for Daisy, things may never be resolved. As recently as last Monday, she tried to take her own life again. And tonight, she's recovering in a psychiatric hospital. She has struggled, but her message for other girls hasn't wavered.
I really wish more girls would tell their story because I have heard multiple stories from multiple people. They've come to me and they've told me their story and they've told me that they're not brave enough to go through and tell someone about it. And I really wish they would because they deserve justice just as much as anyone else does.
Next, Party Central in LA.
This is the biggest party I've ever seen in my entire life.
Hundreds of strangers crashing and trashing. But tonight, 2020's riding with the cops for an all-new kind of party crashing.
We found a couple tanks back there.
So what's in those canisters?
Tonight here, there's a new threat for parents when it comes to teens and drinking, and this one involves your home. Some parents allow their kids to throw parties, to drink while the parents are there. That's been hotly debated before. But what happens when your teen throws a party and someone tweets about it or puts up a Facebook post? Hundreds might show up, and if you think not my house, tonight ABC's Jill Benitez at the front door with the police unit, who are now the new party crashers.
Remember in the movie Mean Girls when Lindsay Lohan threw a party for a few of her closest friends?
I know you.
Whom she had never met? Now more than ever, a few friends takes on a whole new meaning. Seems Miley was right on the money. Coast to coast, parties have been going viral and spiraling out of control. Fueled by Facebook, infused by Instagram, and turbocharged by Twitter. In Colorado, when a few students gathered for a little pool party, they texted their friends, and they texted their friends, and in no time...
This is the biggest party I've ever seen in my entire life.
News of the party made a splash on the internet, and so did 500 kids. I didn't think it'd get that big. As the booze started flowing, the pool started overflowing. Police showed up and made 4 arrests. 10 partiers were taken to the hospital. In a Boston suburb, Jill Abbott's 18-year-old son was staying with a neighbor when they were on vacation in Paris. When he went home to feed the cat, police say a few classmates barged into the house, then went on Facebook to announce a party.
One of them had put on Facebook, call or text Rager for details, call this number.
100 teens showed up and caused $45,000 in damage.
They urinated in every single drawer in my house.
But sometimes it can go from disgusting to deadly. In Houston, Texas, an invitation went viral on Facebook and Twitter. Almost 1,000 people showed up at this empty mansion. When police were called to break it up, one partier started shooting. One was dead. So how do you put a fire like this out? Well, you look for the smoke signals online. And that's exactly what the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is doing, creating a specialized unit, the first and only one of its kind, dedicated to watching parties in real time through social media. Lieutenant Rod Armelin runs this unprecedented team. Like the CIA that listens for terrorist chatter, this unit listens for dangerous party buzz, hoping to break up the bashes before they get really bad.
We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter.
And you're using search terms like bring your own beer, party tonight, kickback tonight. It's new age data mining with Evites in hand.
Yeah, all of these are Facebook and Twitter parties. Looks like we got, I believe, 6 locations we're going to go to, 6 parties.
Acting on tips from Twitter and Facebook, the unit rolls out, and we are along for the ride. First stop is advertised on Facebook as a birthday party. Like many, this invite boasts goodies, code for pot, pills, and the latest party drug of choice, nitrous oxide, the gas that you get in a dentist's office, known as NOS.
Nothing bad's happening, but they're saying...
We arrive with the team at 8:44.
What happened?
So this is the party that they say massive backyard on this Facebook post. Officers are in there right now, checking it out, just seeing what's in there, seeing who's in there.
We found a couple tanks back there. They basically fill the balloons with the gas, and a balloon will sell from anywhere from $5 to $10 a balloon. And then the kids inhale the gas out of the balloons. So
you can feel the air escape the party when mom comes home, and the lieutenant wants to talk. They didn't want to show their faces on national television.
We had 2 empty nitrous oxide tanks. You have balloons, and I am telling you that we would be making arrest if those tanks were full. And this has to stop. This can't go on.
The night is still young. The team is ready to party on. Tipped off by social media, the team drops in. Nothing's a bigger buzzkill than a bunch of cops. 10:52, Lieutenant Armelin and his team arrive. Partiers disperse, leaving a trail of evidence, bottles, Jell-O shots, and a NOS tank. So police say they were selling these Jell-O shots to minors inside that party. And it looks like the homeowners are coming here right now. Our party patrol is getting ready to talk to them.
They're having a party in the back.
Yeah,
selling nitrous oxide.
No.
She doesn't understand why what she thought was to be a small gathering turned out to be a bash with much more than booze. The officers are telling her there's nitrous oxide inside this party. And she's saying, no, there's no way.
I didn't believe it. Then he showed me the flyer.
The flyer, and that's what you said. You said, what? It's on the internet?
It showed that tank was going to be here and the beer and...
And your address was that?